In the dark waters of the Persian Gulf, it is no longer just oil tankers that float. The shadows of military giants, with their barrels locked in aim, now loom. As the world's energy lifeline is severed, the epicenter of the crisis has suddenly begun to shift toward the heart of Europe. By turning the Gulf waters into an impenetrable wall with a military blockade, Tehran has expanded its range, placing not only its regional rivals, but also the United Kingdom directly in the line of fire. But shortly, we will witness how that surprise weapon, set to deliver a profound shock to Tehran on the ground, turned the desert skies into balls of fire. Strategic calculations are now being rewritten, and diplomatic whispers are giving way to an open confrontation. The Tehran regime is now playing its cards completely out in the open. By placing London directly in its crosshairs, Iran has explicitly targeted RAF Fairford, the base hosting American B-52 and B-1B bombers. The wave of threats did not stop there. RAF Mildenhall, the hub for EA-37B electronic warfare aircraft, and RAF Lakenheath, which houses A-10 Warthogs and F-35s, also fell within the range of this sharp escalation. However, there was one harsh reality that Iran failed to account for. British military intelligence had already mapped out all critical points in the region. When the UK Ministry of Defence announced the deployment of exactly 1,000 British troops to the Middle East, Typhoon and F-35 jets and Wildcat helicopters had already woven a deadly patrol network in the skies. On the ground, RAF artillery regiments were on high alert, ready to hunt down Iranian drones emerging from the darkness. Sky Sabre air defense batteries were deployed to Saudi Arabian territory. In Kuwait, ORCUS electronic warfare systems and rapid sentry missiles were brought online at full capacity. In Bahrain, light multiple launchers were moving into operational positions. This layered defensive shield, woven like a steel net across the Middle East map, was designed to paralyze Iran's entire offensive capability. The United Kingdom's first major move was the deployment of the Sky Sabre air defense system. This is a war machine capable of detecting and destroying 24 different targets simultaneously. Saudi airspace was being transformed into an armored dome. Meanwhile, in Kuwait, the ORCUS system detects and neutralizes Iranian drones before they even reach their target. While Rapid Sentry provides physical destruction, ORCUS performs electronic jamming. And when night fell, the real hunt began. In a single night, a record was set. RAF regiment artillerymen destroyed a total of 14 kamikaze drones. This earned them the rare title of drone hunter in modern military history. But London's true trump card was the integration of its forces. From the iconic Type 45 class destroyer, HMS Dragon, to the astute-class nuclear attack submarine, HMS Anson, patrolling deep below the Arabian Sea. Armed with Tomahawk Block 4 cruise missiles, HMS Anson acts as a covert spear, capable of striking any point within 1,000 miles. While others criticized the UK for not sending massive aircraft carriers into the shallow mined waters of the Strait of Hormuz, London chose a more calculated path. They became the architects of a 35-nation international consortium. Instead of risking billion-dollar targets, the Royal Navy deployed fully autonomous mine-hunting systems. The RFA Lime Bay serves as a floating command center for a new generation of unmanned surface vehicles and underwater drones. Tehran's asymmetric strategy was meant to create division. Instead, it made the British even more resolute. With typhoons in the skies, nuclear submarines in the depths, and autonomous drones clearing the waves, the United Kingdom has built a multi-dimensional steel fist. The message is clear. The Strait of Hormuz will stay open.
In the dark, oil-slicked waters of the Persian Gulf, a new kind of silence has taken hold. It is no longer just the hum of massive oil tankers that fills the air. Now, the shadows of military giants, with their barrels locked in a deadly aim, loom over the horizon. The world's energy lifeline is being severed, and the epicenter of this global crisis has suddenly shifted toward the heart of Europe. Tehran has turned the Gulf into an impenetrable wall, and the United Kingdom finds itself directly in the line of fire. The military blockade of the Strait of Hormuz is more than a regional dispute, it's an economic stranglehold. By closing this narrow gateway, Iran has expanded its strategic range, challenging not just its neighbors, but the very foundations of international law. But shortly, we will witness how a surprise technological response is set to deliver a profound shock to the regime. Strategic calculations are being rewritten in real time, as diplomatic whispers give way to the cold reality of an open military confrontation. The Tehran regime is no longer hiding its intentions. In a startling escalation, London has been placed directly in the crosshairs. Iran has explicitly targeted RAF Fairford, the British base that serves as a vital hub for American B-52 and B-1B heavy bombers. These are the aircraft capable of reaching deep into Iranian territory, and by threatening their home base, Iran is attempting to decapitate the West's primary strike capability before a single bomb is even dropped. The wave of threats didn't stop with heavy bombers. RAF Mildenhall, the primary hub for the EA-37B Compass Call electronic warfare aircraft, and RAF Lakenheath, home to the F-35 stealth fighters, were also identified as targets. Iran is betting on its long-range missile inventory to paralyze these bases. However, British military intelligence had already anticipated this move, mapping out every critical node in the Iranian kill chain and preparing a response that would render these threats obsolete. When the UK Ministry of Defence announced the deployment of 1,000 British troops to the Middle East, it was merely the tip of the iceberg. Behind the scenes, Typhoon and F-35 jets were already weaving a deadly patrol network in the skies. Wildcat helicopters were conducting non-stop surveillance missions, creating a digital net that Iran's forces could not penetrate. On the ground, RAF artillery regiments moved to high alert, transitioning from a peacetime footing to active drone hunting within hours. One of the most significant moves was the rapid deployment of the At the heart of the Sky Sabre are the CAMM missiles, Common Anti-Air Modular Missiles. With a range of approximately 25 kilometers, these interceptors provide a steel umbrella against Iran's ballistic threats. Unlike older systems, the CAMM uses an active seeker, meaning it can find its target even if the ground radar is jammed. This technology effectively neutralized the fear of saturation attacks, where hundreds of cheap missiles are fired at once to overwhelm traditional defenses. On the other side of the Gulf, in Kuwait, the defense network became even more sophisticated. Two systems, quietly coming online, were designed to render Iran's drone swarms powerless. The Rapid Sentry Air Defense System and the ORCUS electronic warfare platform were integrated into a single command structure. This combination created a nightmare for Iranian drone doctrine. It meant that any drone entering the area would be electronically blinded before it was physically destroyed. The ORCUS system is the Royal Air Force's most advanced counter-drone asset. It doesn't rely on explosive force, it uses the electromagnetic spectrum as its weapon. By detecting the specific radio frequencies used to control Iranian Shahed drones, ORCUS can sever the link between the pilot and the craft. This soft kill capability is vital in modern warfare, as it allows the military to neutralize threats without firing a single shot, often forcing drones to crash harmlessly in the desert. While ORCUS performs the electronic jamming, the Rapid Sentry provides the kinetic hard kill. Equipped with the Giraffe 1X radar, this short-range platform can track targets with millimeter precision. Once a drone is detected and its signal is jammed, the Rapid Sentry finishes the job. In the Kuwaiti desert, this duo proved that Iran's multi-million-dollar investments in drone swarms could be dismantled by a few highly skilled British operators sitting in mobile command centers. When night fell over the Gulf, the real test of the British defensive net began. Iranian Shahed drones started gliding out of the darkness, launched in waves to overwhelm any defender. But they flew straight into a trap. RAF artillery units, lying in wait in high threat zones, began picking them off one by one. In a single, unforgettable night, a record was set that would go down in history. British forces destroyed 14 kamikaze drones in a single 12-hour window. It was a masterclass in precision, earning the units the title of the premier drone hunters of the modern age. High above the chaos, the Royal Air Force established absolute dominance. This wasn't just a few sorties, it was a non-stop aerial blockade. Since the start of the conflict, British pilots have logged over 1,200 flight hours over the region. Flying out of bases in Cyprus, Jordan, and Qatar, Typhoon and F-35 jets created a massive, invisible wall. This persistent presence meant that any Iranian attempt to launch a cruise missile was detected and neutralized before it could even cross the coastline of the Persian Gulf. The combination of the Typhoon's raw speed and the F-35's stealth capabilities created a tactical nightmare for Tehran. While the Typhoons acted as the visible enforcers, the F-35 integration was the key to this success. The iconic Type 45 destroyer, HMS Dragon, was moved into the eastern Mediterranean to serve as the naval cornerstone of the defense architecture. This isn't just a ship, it's a floating radar station. The Dragon sensors were directly linked into the Sky Sabre batteries on land and the F-35s in the air. This meant that a threat detected by a ship at sea could be shot down by a missile battery hundreds of miles inland within seconds. This level of coordination transformed the British military into a single, unified nervous system. Data on an airborne threat would flow from naval platforms to ground batteries and aerial interceptors simultaneously. An automated algorithm would then suggest the most efficient asset to engage the target. This integration provided the United Kingdom with a layered defense shield stretching from Cyprus to the Persian Gulf, a shield that was virtually impenetrable to the asymmetric tactics Iran had spent decades developing. The strategic heart of this operation was Cyprus. Once just an overseas base, RAF Akrotiri was transformed into one of the most heavily fortified strongholds in the world. After a failed Iranian drone attack on the island earlier in the conflict, London significantly bolstered its defenses. Now, with a full squadron of F-35Bs and over 10 Typhoon FGR-4s stationed there, the island serves as a permanent launchpad for dominance over the entire eastern Mediterranean and the Levant. It wasn't just the jets doing the heavy lifting. Wildcat and Merlin helicopters were constantly conducting maritime surveillance missions, reporting every movement in the Gulf in real time. These helicopters provided the low-altitude eyes that satellites and high-flying jets sometimes miss. By tracking small, fast-moving Iranian attack boats and mine-laying vessels, they provided the critical intelligence needed to prevent a surprise attack on commercial shipping, keeping the sea lanes open under the constant threat of ambush. But London's most terrifying deterrent was completely invisible. The HMS Anson, an Astute-class nuclear attack submarine, arrived in the Arabian Sea after a 5,500-mile journey from Australia. Operating in total silence, the Anson is the ultimate predator. It can sit off an enemy's coast for months, undetected by even the most advanced sonar. Its presence alone sent a chilling message to the Iranian Naval Command: at any moment, a strike could come from nowhere. The Anson is armed with Tomahawk Block 4 cruise missiles, capable of striking targets with surgical precision from over 1,000 miles away. This meant that the United Kingdom could strike any military command center or missile silo deep within Iran without ever putting a pilot at risk. Unlike surface ships, a submarine cannot be targeted by land-based anti-ship missiles. It is a covert spear, held at the throat of the regime, ensuring that any escalation would be met with an immediate and devastating response. While the UK focused on defense, it also acted as a force multiplier for the United States. By opening RAF Fairford to American B-52 and B-1B bombers, London effectively reduced the flight distance to Iran from 11,000 kilometers to just 4,500. This allowed for a much higher frequency of bombing runs against Iranian military infrastructure. Every base that Tehran threatened actually functioned as a ramp, accelerating the destruction of their own military capabilities through coordinated Anglo-American strikes. The strategy was not without controversy. During the height of the crisis, U.S. President Donald Trump criticized the UK for not sending its aircraft carriers into the Strait of Hormuz, famously calling the British carriers toys compared to the U.S. fleet. However, London argued that sending a multi-billion-dollar carrier into a narrow, mine-filled strait was a tactical error. Instead of presenting a massive target to Iranian missiles, the UK chose a more calculated, technology-driven approach that prioritized stealth and autonomy over brute showmanship. The Strait of Hormuz is naturally shallow and littered with Iranian-laid mines, making it a kill zone for large surface vessels. London's refusal to send carriers was not a sign of weakness, but a result of extreme strategic caution. They knew that losing a carrier would be a catastrophic blow to Western morale. Instead, they focused on what they called asymmetric countermeasures, using small, expendable, and highly advanced systems to do the dangerous work that a massive ship simply cannot do in confined waters. Prime Minister Keir Starmer took the lead on the diplomatic front, becoming the architect of a massive international consortium. He brought 35 different countries together with a single goal: to reopen the strait. This wasn't just a military alliance, it was a global economic coalition. By framing the blockade as a war against the entire world's energy supply, London ensured that Iran. To solve the mine problem, the Royal Navy deployed its most innovative weapon yet. The RFA Line Bay was rapidly modified in Gibraltar to serve as a floating command center for a new generation of mine warfare. Moving away from traditional, manned mine hunters, the Line Bay became a mothership for autonomous systems. This flagship was equipped to carry, deploy, and retrieve unmanned surface vehicles and underwater drones, allowing the Navy to clear the strait without risking a single sailor's life. These state-of-the-art autonomous systems, developed in partnership with Thales, represent a first in military history. 12-meter unmanned surface vehicles scan the seabed using high-resolution sonars, detecting mines with millimeter-level precision. Once a mine is found, a remotely operated underwater vehicle is deployed to neutralize it. This robotic fleet can operate 24 hours a day, in weather conditions that would ground manned vessels, providing a constant and relentless clearance capability. The entire operation is managed through the AI-enabled M-Cube Command Center. This digital platform integrates all unmanned vehicles, sensors, and weapon systems into a single interface. The AI can prioritize. By 2026, the Royal Navy had reduced its number of manned mine hunters to just 6, but its actual clearance capability had tripled. The use of autonomous drones meant that the danger zone of the Strait of Hormuz was now being managed from an air-conditioned office on the RFA Line Bay. This approach completely neutralized Iran's primary asymmetric weapon. If a mine destroys a drone, it's a financial loss. If it destroys a ship with hundreds of. On March 19, 2026, the coalition issued a joint statement. France, Germany. Iran's strategy was designed to create division in Europe and drive a wedge between London and Washington. On the contrary, it made the British more resolute and better equipped. Every new threat from Tehran led London to deploy. In the final analysis, the steel net was a triumph of technology over brute force. From the F-35s in the sky to the nuclear predators in the deep, and the autonomous drones clearing the waves, the United Kingdom proved that a modern, integrated military can neutralize even the most complex asymmetric threats. The Strait of Hormuz remains open, not through luck, but through calculated, technology-driven dominance. The lessons of 2026 will be studied for decades. In the wars of the future, the network is the ultimate weapon.